Let's talk about landlords. Now, on the whole, most landlords are very efficient small businesses that provide an essential service in a cost-effective way. They provide flexibility, wider choice of properties, and immediate availability, all of which is not possible with the public sector. On average, the standard of accommodation is much better than the public sector and social housing. The private rental sector will be regulated by the new Renters' Rights Act. This will ensure that there are higher rights for tenants, better housing and energy efficiency standards, and very tough regulation of landlords. So there is a strong case for the government to actively support and increase the private rented sector instead of falling into the trap of big corporations or putting more funds into the public sector. My personal view is that it does not make sense to pump more money into the public sector with grants and subsidized loans, whilst keeping taxes and stamp duty high on private landlords. After the Renters' Rights Bill becomes law, the government should actively support private landlords. They should consider reducing landlord taxes and barriers, as these will indirectly support tenants and help with UK housing. In my view, there are three priorities. More supply by encouraging building of affordable homes. Keep personal home ownership as high as possible. Provide more rental housing for social tenants. Active support of the private rented sector could help fix all three. Firstly, right now, the key thing stopping private developers building more houses to sell is the fear that they may not be able to sell them for a profit. Support of landlords will result in more new builds because developers will know that should families not buy all their houses, they will be able to sell them to investors. This will only happen if landlords are seen to be actively supported by the government. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. We publish content every week on UK property investing. Hit the bell and like. It really helps the channel and ensures you're notified when the next video is released. New house building will no longer be risky for developers. Right now, negative sentiment about landlords is influencing developers not to build. This will also ensure that the prime focus of low-cost house building remains to increase home ownership and not build to rent, which is preferred by the big corporations. And finally, active support of landlords can help the social housing crisis if combined with increases in the local housing allowance. This allowance is paid by the government to families on low income to help them get housing. Now, this payment towards rent is worked out on a local level and in the past was near to market rents, thereby helping tenants rent or secure accommodation in the private rented sector. Now it's well below current market rents, which have increased a lot following high general inflation in recent years. Current and previous governments have failed to increase the local housing allowance in any significant way. This is creating real stress for tenants on low income who are not able to afford the market rent. Some critics argue that increasing the local housing allowance could result in higher rents and landlords may make more profit. But if this also results in increased supply of new build houses, as discussed before, then the risk of this is less as there will be more supply and more competition. Increasing this allowance will enable such tenants to use the efficient private rental sector, which is now heavily regulated, and able to provide good quality housing for tenants who are on the waiting list for social housing. This would be better than pumping money into an inefficient public sector or risking the nation's housing by supporting build-to-rent strategy of big corporations. If that happens, Britain will no longer be a nation of homeowners. So what do you think? Is ideology making the government keep landlord taxes high whilst trying to increase public sector ownership and hence introduce inefficiencies in the housing market? What about big corporations? Will the plan to support them build new build-to-rent homes backfire over the long term? Now that the private rented sector will be heavily regulated, should the government instead increase incentives and reduce taxes on landlords so that they can help in the housing crisis and encourage building of new homes? And should the local housing allowance be increased to support low-income tenants? These are hot topics. Please drop your thoughts in the comments below.
If you want to invest in property and get 7% net rent, long-term capital growth, no costs or liabilities ever, do nothing yourself, and be living anywhere in the world, then consider Find UK Property. They provide 100% passive investment solutions for long-term income from freehold properties starting at under 80k. You get a property that is affordable, fully renovated, already rented out, contractually guaranteed and productive from day one. You become the owner and rent it back to Find UK Property so that they become your tenants and look after all aspects of the property in a fully compliant way. You never need to deal with tenants, estate agents, or do any property maintenance or repairs, or pay for any costs. Find UK Property look after over 2,500 houses, all of which are sublet to their own tenants. And on average, they get more rent from their tenants than they have to pay the property owners. So that way they can cover all the property costs. Their solutions are great for those wanting to retire on pension-type income or gradually build large property portfolios passively in a tax-efficient manner. Please visit the website at findukproperty.com and speak to a consultant today.